Well, let's go ahead and get started then. I'd like to welcome our very special guest today, Martha Mook. She's acclaimed for her electrifying performances and compositions, pioneering composer and electroacoustic violinist who transcends musical boundaries, enhancing her classical training and expertise with extended techniques, digital effects processing, and improvisation. A Yamaha artist and leading clinician on electric and progressive string playing, she has taken the stage with a very impressive roster of artists. I'm just blown away. A short list includes Barbra Streisand, Peter Gabriel, Andrea Bocelli, Elton John, Trey Anastasio, Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, David Bowie, one of my idols, Laurie Anderson, and many others. Martha has received awards from ASCAP, Meet the Composer, Arts International, and fellowships at the MacDowell Colony, and she's been commissioned by numerous organizations and ensembles. Her compositional catalog includes solo, chamber, symphonic band, and orchestral works, as well as multimedia, film, theater, and ballet scores. And she's in New Jersey today, taking some time out to spend with us. So Martha, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Colin. My pleasure. The flight out to Colorado was like no time. And, that's the only thing I'm going to miss. No, I'm not going to miss that. I've toured all over the world in this past year and a half, and I haven't gotten any frequent flyer miles. So, but no complaining. No complaining.
Well, we'll have to find another excuse for you to come out here in person sometime.
I would love that. It's actually been a long time since I've been out your way. So, sorry Jane is not here, but we've collaborated a number of times. She's come and visited my class as well. And so for the next hour or so, looking forward to, at some point, having some interaction with you all. I've been looking at rectangular screens with people's names in it for way too long. But I thought what I'd start out with, I'm not sure, aside from my biography, I have a little video which sort of gives an overall about what I do. So I thought today would be a combination of I'll play some videos, we'll chat, I'll do a little bit of live playing for you guys. I don't know how many of you were in the previous session that I attended a couple of months ago. We did some jamming together.
Was that for one of Jane's classes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was fun. So anyway, it's a few minutes long. I might skip around in it, but that'll sort of give you an overview of what I do. And I like to work it so it's interactive. So you're welcome to ask questions or respond, during the proper moments of that.
Perfect. And I will also, Martha, I'll also monitor the chat. If someone just wants to put a question in the chat, go ahead and put it in there. And that way you don't have to worry about it and I can just ask it to you. So
great. I'm used to multitasking and so it's all good. This is an easy one for me. So I'm going to share my screen and start off with a video presentation that's sort of an introduction, and we'll see where it goes from there.
So this is goodbye. This is goodbye. Philip Glass had asked me to do the concert, and he'd also asked David to do the concert, and David lives across the street from me, so he called me up and said, hey, rather than perform separately, why don't we just perform together? And I think David Bowie's probably the most remarkable musician of the latter half of the 20th century, so if he wants to collaborate, who am I to say no?
The little band I've got together is fantastic. It's like an all-star band. I have my old producer, Tony Visconti, playing bass. A wonderful violinist and her cohorts, Martha Mooks, on the quartet. I've got Moby on guitar. And I've got Philip Glass, is my pianist.
When I'm working with this gear, I actually use it as if it's a collaborator, and so like I'm starting to interact with a fellow musician, and that's how I work with the electronics, and so I get on the inside and I sort of experiment, do a lot of trial and error, sonic exploration, in fact. And let me show you what's on the inside of the H9 control. So if you kind of get the idea, it's shimmering through some sizes of rooms and decays and all kinds of other pitches and things in there. So let's see. So these are all the parameters that I have access to within this particular algorithm. And I think that'll end the science class for today. I'll go back to playing some music. Hang on a second. All right, let me turn. So, kind of in a nutshell, that's a little bit of what I do. And any questions or comments or?
Martha, you have way more pedals than I do, and I've been a guitarist for 30 some years. So that's really impressive. I just, I wanted to ask real quick, do you find like most of those pedals you're using are originally designed for guitar, I guess?
Oh yes, and that's why they. So and you'll actually see. Here's my pedal board right here. I'm not sure you can. I don't have my height, the other angle, but actually most of the gear that I'm using these days is Eventide because the sounds are so great, and they love what I do with the pedals. But yes, that's how I started out, with all pedals that were made for guitar or for bass. But now it's being used by vocalists, and I know a few saxophone players that are using pedals. And at this point, when I first started out, it wasn't really that many pedals. It was all this big rack mount gear that you had to sort of schlep around. I had Elisa's Quadriverb and other things. But now you have the option of using the pedals. Also, a lot of this gear comes in plugins for your computer, for your digital audio workstation, Pro Tools, Logic. I use it with all the time. Even iOS apps, as well as computer programs like Ableton Live. A lot of people are using Ableton, or if you really, I don't know how many of you maybe have worked with, what's the other one? It's very production intensive. I'm drawing a blank on it right now. Max, MSP. And yes, a Magic Stomp, good eye. Thank you.
Andrew is awesome. Andrew's one of my students, and I was asking him about pedal advice just yesterday. I always ask my students about advice for which pedals, because they're so much more in the know than I am.
Yeah, well, when I first started on electric viola, there weren't that many electric violas. I'm actually a violist by training. I have a master's degree in viola, acoustic viola. In fact, I still, up until about a year ago, was playing very regularly with orchestras, and I play Broadway shows. I was playing Wicked quite a lot, in fact. A lot of recording sessions and tours, which, hopefully that's starting to come back again. But there wasn't that much gear when I started out 30 some odd years ago doing this stuff. But at that, I would take the instrument that I had and go into a music store like Sam Ash or Manny's, which in New York City, 48th Street was considered Music Row, and all the rock and roll stars, when they were coming into town, would go and check out the gear and guitars and drums, and And I would go in and I would just plug into all the pedals that they would have, you know, delay and distortion and overdrive. And I still have some of that old gear, but over the years, you know, things change. And I started getting, that's when I met up with, totally by chance, with Yamaha, when they were starting they're designing their electric string series. And they invited me to give them some input, and ultimately brought me to Japan to work with their design team. So I've been involved with Yamaha in the design of their electric strings, of which this is one of them. They're one of their latest models, the YEV, and it's 5 strings. I'll play a little bit in a moment, but I have several models of Yamaha instruments. And then through the years, I was playing different gear, and then I got hooked up with Eventide, which, if you've ever been in a recording studio, you've had access to their some of their really iconic gear, professional audio gear, the harmonizer and reverb, and they started putting out stomp boxes. And I met the president of the company out at NAMM, which is an amazing. Hopefully they'll start having them again out in Anaheim, California. All the music stores and all the music industry are out there. And he heard what I was playing, how I was using the guitar pedals with my electric viola, because a non-fretted string instrument has a different level of sensitivity and options. Harmonics ring out even more, and you can do glissandos and play between the notes, which it's a very different kind of playing than strumming or plucking a guitar. And so what it allows me to do is just come up with even using the same effects that guitar players use, it sounds totally different. And in fact, for the first time ever, I was, I've been asked to do it numerous times, but I finally acquiesced because it was a reasonable offer, I created a sample pack for Splice, which is, it's an online format that songwriters and producers and composers use. And I created a sample pack of about 150 of my sounds. I'll play a little bit of that for you later, and that's just directly done with my pedals here. Sky, it's called electro-acoustic viola, and it's the sonic something. I'll show you in a second. So yeah, you know, Eventide, yes, it's top of the line gear, and but now they're making what they call the .9. So some of their more iconic sounds are they're making like a black hole pedal, which I use, and so you can mix and match. And I use this. This is how I was controlling that. You saw it in the video, and that controls through the iPad. That controls the parameters and my playlist for my sounds. So it's a little bit of, you know, getting used to the technology. But I always say, you know, look at an organ player, you know, organist in a church, and they're always using their feet and their hands. It's like, you know, they're an octopus. They've got so many hands and feet. And so I sort of equate that with what I'm doing. Yes, shimmer, absolutely. From my Eventide. So I use 2 H9 stomp boxes, and they're fully maxed out. So I've got all the sounds, and the Yamaha Magic Stomp, that's been on my pedal board they don't make it. They haven't made it for a long time, but it's still got some of my favorite sounds on it. And when you're creating, it's like, it's an artist with their color, the paints that they're using, and so I make very good notes of all the different parameters that I use, like reverb and pitch shifting and delays, because inevitably the gear changes. I didn't create, like, my original pieces that I wrote. That gear doesn't exist anymore, and so I had to then refigure that in this new, in my new pedals and in the new electronics. But I know exactly how much reverb and how much delay and what kind of pitch shifting or envelope I'm using. So that's why it pays to be take really good notes. So yeah, I agree with you, Stephen, that sometimes the best things are discontinued. That's why I have several of all these different things. So maybe I'll play a little bit for you and just sort of give you an onboard demonstration. And I've certainly got plenty of material. And we'll go through any more questions. I have a website on social media, so please follow along and stay in touch and drop me a note here and there. I'll write it this is my Instagram and Twitter. So you can find me everywhere as Elec Viola. So right now I'm going to change my settings. Also, I had to really learn not only Zoom, but streaming. Like a year and a half ago, I had to figure out if I put my music stand on top of a table and I put my iPhone there and I use this third-party app, I can get two different angles and learn how to control it. And so this little corner of my studio became everything during COVID. It was my rehearsal. It's where I wrote all my music. It's where I do all these remote sessions, master classes. I had a Latin American tour that I did this year with the Audio Engineering Society, and I teach my classes from this little corner here. So it's been a pretty quick turnaround to figure out what to do. So I'm going to switch over to my audio interface. Which means now I have to speak through the microphone. And I'm just going to play a little bit, improvise a little bit. So this is what the instrument sounds like, just playing. Which is all nice. Then I do this. And just to show you, besides the effects pedals, I also have several expression pedals that they modify the sound while I'm playing, and that's what. Let's see if you can. So when I play this. And of course, normally all this gear is at my feet and I'm usually standing. I'm when I perform generally in non-COVID times, I stand and everything's at my feet, and that's little choreography involved. So we got some questions. Bluetooth, yeah. Let me explain. First of all, I've got a wireless system, Line 6. That's the Relay G10S. So I'm wireless from my viola, so I can actually, when I perform live, I can walk around the audience and, back in the day, someday I will again. Or if I do a lot of school presentations, and there's nothing cooler than going around and having these kind of sounds, and having somebody in kindergarten just pluck one note and have that sound emanate from it. So that's a little demo there. Also, what you can't see thank you. At my feet, I have a looper. I've been a looper for many years. Looper meaning I use a looping pedal, and that's what gives me the ostinato that I can then build on. And so that's another piece of original guitar gear that I use very differently, because I don't always use it as an ostinato that keeps, rhythm or keeps 4 bars or 8 bars. I often use it. I have the Boss RC300, and so it's a stereo pedal, and it gives me 3 separate loops. And I have them so that they're not synced up. And so that also allows me to explore new harmonic territory, because I can do things where I'm building sounds, and the harmonies just keep changing because the loops are at different durations. So that means that even the same piece of music, if I just deviate a little bit, things are going to keep changing in and out of phase, right? I don't know how many of you study Steve Reich, but you know about going in and out of phase. Andrew had a question about Bluetooth. So yeah, the Bluetooth connects the iPad and the H9 control. That's what controls the pedal. That's Bluetooth. So any other questions about the gear, the instrument? I don't know. Are there any string players in the audience besides guitar players? So one thing, let's see. You notice here how many strings there are on this instrument, right? So usually a violin or a viola will have 4 strings. But a lot of electric instruments have 5, 6, sometimes 7, 8, 9 strings. And so my favorite instruments have 5 strings. And what that does is it gives me the option. I can also use different tunings. So I can most of my tunings are a combination of viola and violin. So I have the low C string and the high E string. So, okay. All right, so over the years, I've done a lot of different styles of music, and whenever possible, I collaborate with people who are stylistically really diverse from me, because that gives me a chance to explore, and often you'll come up with something totally new in a collaboration. And Colin, you were saying Laurie Anderson is one of your favorites. Well, she's one of my inspirations, and I've gotten to know her pretty well over the years and had the opportunity to perform with her on a number of occasions, including at Carnegie Hall at one of the Tibet House concerts. But so talking about the Tibet House concerts, that's where I was performing with Moby and with David Bowie. That's when I first played with David Bowie. And that is a production that is produced by Philip Glass, and he's produced it for over 30 years. And are you all familiar with Philip Glass, preeminent American composer, mostly associated with minimalism, like Steve Reich, Terry Riley? And I've known Philip for a long time. I've played on a lot of his film scores as well. And I collaborate with Philip every year with my string quartet. We play on the Tibet House benefit concert, which raises money, but mainly it raises awareness for Tibetan culture. But each year, Philip always gets these amazing performers. Like he had David performed a number of times. Laurie Anderson has performed many times. Patti Smith, Lou Reed. I got to play with Lou a number of times there. Iggy Pop has done it many times. It's nothing more fun than playing with Iggy Pop when he takes the stage. And so I've had a lot of really wonderful experiences, and we've had times where the quartet takes the stage, and Philip turned to me and he said, "Okay, I'm going to do my Etude number 10. You guys improvise, okay?" And I'm like, "Okay." So we do, and it's all great. And one of the first times that I did something like that was with this beatboxer by the name of Rahzel, who Rahzel is it's called the godfather of noise. He was one of the founding members of the Roots. And we met at the Tibet House concert, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago. He had never played with a string quartet before, and we had never played with a beatboxer. And we were like, why not? Let's try it. So we did, and we hit it off. And then Rahzel and I started collaborating on different things. And down the road, I got a commission from Symphony Space, which is a theater in New York City, to create a new work. And I was thinking of something with beats, and I put this idea together called Beats Per Revolution, which combines all different versions of the word beat, including heartbeat and drum beats and beats per minute. And I thought, beatboxer. So I called Rahzel, and so we collaborated on this piece called Beats Per Revolution. And I'm going to share my screen again and show you just a little promo of, but it's like 4 minutes. It was a half-hour piece, and it's a chamber ensemble, including string quartet, jazz band, drums, which used electronic drums and sampling, bass player, which played both acoustic and jazz. And a lot of these players were from Broadway, so they played different styles of music. And we had such a blast. We're going to do it again next year, I think, here in New Jersey. So let me share the screen again.
Peace revolution, 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 peace revolution.
So there you go. If you're in, you can watch the whole thing if you're interested. Beats per Revolution. It's on my YouTube channel. So that was just a little promo of that. But yes, it was an amazingly fulfilling collaboration. Razel and I worked very closely together, and he's an incredible musician. He's not classically trained. He doesn't read music. So I had to figure out ways in which he would know where we were in the score. You saw I was conducting as I was playing. And so if I said to the musicians, and we're in movement 3 and measure 51, Razel had to know where that was, so he created a way that he would know that. And there was such mutual respect between the musicians, and everybody was just up for doing different kinds of collaboration. Everybody on that stage was involved in an improvisation of some kind, and you saw when they at different times they were standing up, and there were 2 of them that were improvising together. And that's something that is not as usual for classically trained musicians. In fact, I often tell this little joke. It's not really a joke, but what's the fastest way to get a classical musician to stop playing? Ask them to improvise. They will not put their instruments down fast enough. And a couple of years ago, I wrote a piece for the Chamber Orchestra of Philadelphia, and they are very classical in style, like Beethoven's size orchestra. In fact, the only percussion was timpanist, and I wrote a piece for them, and I used all of my electronics, and everything that I write has improvisation in it to some extent, because I think it's very important for that. That's not just spontaneity, but that organicness to be in the music. For live performances, once things are recorded, that's pretty much what they are. But for me, the aspect that a performance is going to change night to night, even if you're playing the same song or the same piece, even if it's a Mozart symphony, it's gonna sound different because people in the audience are wearing different clothes, and the weather will be different, and the amount of humidity in the room will be different. And I think that's something that, as a performer, I try to get the audience really involved in understanding they are part of the performance. And that's definitely something that's been missing this past year, with not being able to have people in the room to feel the temperature of the room, to feel the energy, the vibrations in the room. Any other questions or comments? I'm reading the chats now. Yeah, it was definitely fun. Yeah, so that dialogue that Razel was having with the bass player, that was totally improvised, and they just kind of made it up, and that was exactly what they were doing, because they were having a little duel, like the dueling banjos. That was kind of what they were doing, and every time it was rehearsed, it was something different. Let's see if there's any other questions. And of course, if you don't know that quote, "The revolution will not be televised," it's by Gil Scott Heron from his groundbreaking poem / song, "The revolution will not be televised." And everybody should go and listen to that. And the cool thing, I'm just going to type it in here. The really cool thing about when we premiered this piece at Symphony Space, I used to work for Symphony Space many years before that, but it turned out that Gil Scott-Heron's brother, Dennis Heron, had worked at Symphony Space. And they had both passed away, but Gil Scott-Heron's sister-in-law came to this performance, and she was so moved by hearing the reference to "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." So, well, I'm blabbering quite a lot. Anybody else want to chip in here with some questions? Oh, Connor, okay. So here's the interesting thing, Connor. Yes, I played with Lou Reed, but I actually toured and recorded with John Cale for a number of years. Actually, before I ever met Lou, I toured with John Cale and the Soldiers String Quartet. And we did tours throughout the US and Europe. And yeah, John is, I would say he's probably the grandfather of electric viola playing. And the interesting thing was all the years and all the tours that we played together. He played guitar and he played piano or keyboard. He never played the viola while I was on tour with him. But that was amazing music making. It was string quartet, BJ Cole on pedal steel guitar, and John and the music that we played. John's music is so full of emotion and drama, and then it was years later when I was introduced to Lou and got to play with Lou separately. I don't think they were ever in the same room together when I saw them, but those are some great memories that I have. And in fact, I play with the string quartet on John Cale's album Walking on Locusts, as well as my different quartet that plays on David Bowie's album Heathen. And that's where we recorded with him. There were questions further up from Cheyenne. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Which pedal combo gave you your favorite sound? So basically anything in the Eventide pedals, it just goes so deep. You can go so deep in there. But that said, I did discover some sounds. I like collaboration. I like to collaborate not just with other artists, but with the electronics. And so I'm always trying combinations of different sounds and different pedals. And before I ever got involved with Eventide, I was using other kinds of effects pedals and just, making note of the different parameters. And again, writing down what they were as, making very, very integral notes. But when I started using the Eventide gear, it's such high quality, and it even in one effect, it sounds like there's multi-effects going on. So, I use shimmer a lot. That's one of my favorites. Black hole, of course, crystals, but a lot of the delays are amazing also, and you use them in combination. That's when I use the Yamaha Magic Stomp, because then it gives you play one note and you get this really interesting rhythm that happens out of that, and that's how I develop some of my pieces out of that. Which collaboration with people? Well, definitely with Razel, and that's ongoing. We're working actually on, we have something very new. One of these days, if it ever comes out, it's our version of spa music. If you can imagine a beatboxer and electric viola player doing spa music, take that to another level. Nothing can come close to what the very first time I got on stage with David Bowie. I mean, to play Heroes, I still get chills when I think of that. And then being in the studio with him for many, many hours, just collaborating and trying new sounds. And so those are definitely some of my favorite collaborations. But I've worked with dancers, and I've actually just started. I got a new commission to work with a dance company for next year. I've done film scores. I just finished a silent film score. In fact, actually, it's a silent film, but my score is not silent. And humor. Oh, humor is so important. I'm in Bayonne, New Jersey, because I'm at the New Jersey City University, and I'm actually starting developing a brand new program here that's called Multi-Style Strings. And I am welcome string players of all different styles. So that includes classical and jazz and fiddle and rock, electronics, any kind of style. And I have a lot of different connections in a lot of different fields. So I have on the faculty now, I have the world-renowned Regina Carter. She's doing some teaching here, and Jeremy Kittle, who's an amazing bluegrass fiddle jazz player. And being, in the New York City vicinity, we have now, as things open up, we'll have access to everything that the city has to offer. But we just gave our very first concert, which I called Extravaganza. It was all online, and I was multitasking with sharing screens and all that. But some of the works that were performed had a lot of humor in it, and sometimes you don't think of music as being something that it's okay to laugh at, and it's meant for you to laugh at. And I think everybody in the audience just felt so good that they knew it was okay to laugh, and it was some kind of a release for them. So that's multi-style. That's why I use improvisation in my work. Again, I'm classically trained. I don't have training as a jazz player or in any other style. It's experience has been my training, and it's taken me a long time to get to where I am. And now I have this opportunity of creating this program to sort of give people a leg up going forward. Yes, definitely. Haydn had a musical sense of humor. The Surprise Symphony, I'm sure that you all know that. And I think, working with sound, not just in, making sure all those little black notes on the page go together, but also working with silence and with expression and with textures and sound color. And that's what I work a lot with my students, to really explore what's inside the note. If you're playing a wind instrument, you don't have to only play notes. You can play air. You can play multiphonics. There's as a string player, you can play harmonics, and you can play. I'm not plugged in now, but percussive sounds, right? And exploring the range of, like in a piano, one of the first improv sessions I ever did, it was a piano player, and I went over to him. I said, okay, answer me. And I played something crazy on the viola, and he tried to play a melody and harmonize it. I said, no, don't think about it. Just do something crazy. And he then went and played something crazy. And then I said, well, now play inside the piano. And he yelled inside the piano, and he strummed inside the, and all of a sudden there was a whole new instrument that opened up to him, of sounds and possibilities. I don't have time to show it now, but I wrote a piece for myself and piano. I don't play the piano, but what I did was I hooked it up to my looper and electronics, and I had some implements I got from the kitchen, and I beat inside, and I played all kinds of things with whisks and all kinds of things. And I created a whole piece doing that, and maybe I played exactly one note on the keyboard. Another question. In your own music, what's the relationship and balance between notated music and improvisation? Great question. And yes, really great question. And we are totally going to run out of time. But that said, oftentimes I'll just have to create a new notational system. Not everything that I play is notated, but when I do, for example, I had notated No Ordinary Window, that piece I played a little bit before, and the piece that you saw that me play with the concert band, Xing. The viola is a transposing instrument in that respect, because when I play one note, that's what I'm reading, or what the conductor is reading is not what's being heard. So I'm as much of a transposing instrument as a trumpet, right? Or a B flat or an E flat or an F instrument. So what I need to do is I need to notate. I usually have 2 lines in the score when I'm notating, and one of them will be the notes that I'm reading, because when I have all my pedals set up, I know what melody, sometimes it just looks like a melody or one note. But with all the effects kicked in, it could be something that's totally harmonized or in a certain rhythmic pattern. So I need to notate that so that the conductor knows what it is. Or if I have the score for No Ordinary Window and another viola player or violinist wants to play it, I need to notate it. In fact, the score is full of screenshots from that have all the parameters, because I don't expect anybody else to have the exact same setup I have. But if they know how much delay or how much reverb or how much pitch or chorus that I'm using, then they can approximate that in whatever effects, pedals or computer or whatever system they're using. And you can get sort of at least the same sound territory. So, Caitlin, thank you so much. Feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email if you have any additional questions, after the class, and be happy to be in touch. Got plenty more stuff online that
I feel like we're just getting started, and we've just run out of time. So I think
Yes.
we'll have to have you back for part 2 or part 3
Glad to.
of this. But thank you so much for sharing your playing and the wonderful videos and your expertise. And I certainly have questions. I'm sure more questions are here, so we'll plan to have you back. But thank you so much, and thank you for everybody for being here and for the great questions. And there were lots of comments in there too, Martha, just about how people
Really
learned so much what you were doing. And I see you just put an email in there. That's the best email where people can reach out to you.
Yeah, I have a Facebook page. You can find me on there. Instagram, I do a lot on there. A little bit on Twitter. So definitely keep in touch. And everybody, good luck, stay safe, and go out and hopefully enjoy the summer.
And hopefully we'll be back on stage, as you said, very soon.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, thank you again, Martha. Very much appreciated. And thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Friday and a fine weekend.
Thanks so much, guys.
Take care.